MC Laubscher here, the host of the Cashflow Ninja podcast and also the president and chief wealth and investment strategist of Producers Wealth, where we help our clients integrate cash flow banking, also known as infinite banking, with their business and investments. If you're interested in learning more about how we create strategies that integrate cash flow banking and investments to turbocharge them, you can access a video series at yourownbankingsystem.com. That's yourownbankingsystem.com.
Welcome to the Cashflow Ninja, the podcast sharing how to create income streams and manage, multiply, and protect your wealth in the new economy. Here is your host inside the dojo, MC Laubscher.
Hello, Cashflow Ninjas. MC Laubscher here, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Ninja. I have a great show for you today, and in today's show, we're going to look at the concept of relentless implementation. We all have the desire to start businesses and or pursue investment opportunities, but one of the things holding us back is taking action and implementing it. My guest today, Dan Handford, will share this concept of relentless implementation. Dan Handford grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. He is the founder of 8 different companies with revenues exceeding 8 figures. He is a master at creating passive income with real businesses. He and his wife host a podcast called Tough Decisions for Entrepreneurs.
Are you an investor looking for passive cash flow but don't have the time to explore your options? Discover real estate. It's the best option for passive income that savvy investors have been turning to for years to generate income and build wealth. But the reality is, real estate investing takes expertise, market knowledge, and time. So what do you do if you don't have the time or market knowledge? Discover how many business investors have found a way to generate cash flow from real estate investing. Their secret? They partner with proven private real estate investment funds. Four Peaks Capital Partners have created a system that allows accredited investors the opportunity to invest in undervalued assets to generate passive income and capital gains. Invest with the cash flow experts and sit back while Four Peaks does all the work. Call Four Peaks Capital Partners at 877-5-INCOME. That's 877-5-INCOME, or go to privateincomeinvesting.com. An offer to buy or sell securities is only made by a private placement memorandum. Prospective investors must read the PPM in its entirety before making an investment decision.
Dan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Can you please share a little bit about your background and journey with my listeners?
Sure, absolutely. So my background spans ever since I was born, I would say, because I always say that I've been an entrepreneur for as long as I can remember, and I always tell the story of how my mom told me that when I was born, I was already turning around negotiating with the physician that was in the labor and delivery room of which butt cheek he was going to slap, before we got started to get me crying. But I've always been an entrepreneur, always thought about, trying to, ways to improve things and solve problems. And, I started out, selling Cutco knives and selling, stuff door to door, whether it be candy or lawn services or, whatever it is. I always had that mindset. And so I've had multiple businesses over the years. Right now, my background is I have 5 medical offices here in South Carolina that are passive income at this point. And then I also have a couple of online businesses that I've had actually longer than the medical practices, which are all passive right now. And right now I'm currently focused on our HandfordCapital.com business, where we actually go and buy apartment buildings with outside investor funds, but also with our own funds, with our passive income that we have. And then we also have our own podcast called Tough Decisions for Entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. Now, did you start building businesses on the side while you were working and get that entrepreneurial spirit out of you? How did that develop? Or was there at some point that you left an employment, or it was just always the entrepreneurial route for you?
It's pretty much been the entrepreneurial route for me. There was a time where the longest stint that I actually was a W-2 employee for someone was while I was working on my education. And so I kind of already knew that once I had my education that I was going to start my own practice. But my background is I'm a chiropractor by trade. And so when I was going through chiropractic college and even getting some of my undergrad degree in biology that I have from the University of South Carolina, I was working for another chiropractor, learning a lot of the business and the ins and outs and all that kind of different pieces of the practice. And all it was missing was the clinical component. And so once I had those two things, I just right out of the gate when I got out of school started my own practice. So I've kind of much always had, an entrepreneurial spirit. I've worked, when I was in high school, I worked at Chick-fil-A and, a couple of different places where, I to provide some income. But for the most part, I was never there in those businesses very long term because I've always been the type of person where I like to grow and continue to, build. And that's where that entrepreneur spirit comes from too.
Gotcha. Now, many folks out there, they have a desire to start their own business. And for many, some will be forced as the new way that people work is changing and changing rapidly. And they also have the ambition to be something more, to live in purpose, to give back, to take their life to the next level. But then comes the implementation part, right? That part up where we need to take action. What are some of the things that you can recommend and share that will help people get over that hurdle and take that next step?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's several different things that you must have, lined up. Like I said, I like to call it lined up, to be able to get to a point of what I call relentless implementation. We talk about implementing things. We talk about the word relentless. And a lot of times relentless is kind of has a negative connotation to it. But when you tie those two words together, you could be unstoppable with anything that you put your mind to. But the biggest thing is that there's a lot of people, and I'm sure your listeners have heard of this from their friends or family, or even they've told themselves this, that I want to become a millionaire, or I want to be able to be financially independent or successful, or whatever the case is, but they have that desire, but they never get that desire to a point of ambition. And until you can actually have the desire and the ambition, which an ambition by definition is a strong desire. So unless that desire can get to the point of being strong, then you can't get it to the ambitious state to be able to get into the relentless implementation state. And so I always tell people, you've got to be able to define what your purpose is and what your why is behind what you are trying to do and what you are trying to accomplish. Otherwise, you will never be able to get to the point of relentless implementation. So it starts with that purpose and that why. And then it kind of goes into what we call the desire, right? The desire step or the desire phase. And once you have that desire and that why, then before you get to the ambitious state, you have to make a decision to act. Like that decision to act is really the most important piece of this entire puzzle, because you can't ever go anywhere unless you decide to act. And so you have this purpose and why, and it gives you that burning desire, and then you decide to act upon those desires, and that's when it creates this strong desire, which is called an ambition. You have that ambition behind what you're trying to do, and it puts you into the relentless implementation mindset. And this is not just like a one-time cycle. This is constant cyclical action. It's constantly going back and forth, and reinventing itself, and constantly reinvigorating that entire piece. So the more cycles that you go through, the more of a relentless implementation mindset you can get. And then once you actually fulfill this process, it doesn't feel like work. Like I am a hard worker. I work really hard every day, but it doesn't feel like work. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And, yes, there are days that are better than others and, that kind of stuff. But, when I come home at night, with my wife and my 4 kids, I enjoy telling them that, hey, I actually had a bad day today, but you know what? I can't wait to do it again tomorrow because it doesn't feel like work, And I'm not saying every day's bad. I mean, we have much more good days than bad days, but there are days where you go home and you have a bad day. But if you are fulfilling that purpose and that why, and you're going through this cycle of deciding to act, going to the ambition, and actually getting to that relentless implementation mindset, it will be a lot of work. but it won't feel like work. And that's what continues to motivate you, what continues to keep you going and pushing forward and actually making those decisions to start to have the dreams that you have in your head of success.
I was actually looking at my son again last night, and when he sees something that he wants, right, he relentlessly, and he's 15 months old right now, he relentlessly goes after it. And he gets very creative, by the way. He's at the stage where, he can make the cute face and to basically advance of getting to what he wants, right? So it amazes me that when we get older and we are young adults, or even if we're a little bit older, there's still things that we want, but we have identified a purpose, but we stop delivering the same energy in trying to create and implement to get what we want.
It's a very good analogy, and I hadn't ever actually connected that. But when you started to bring up children and that fact, I have 4 small children. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and I have a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. So I have quite a range there, and they're all younger. But if we could get ourselves into that youthful mindset again, because they haven't lived enough life to get to the point where they have people around them that are telling them no all the time and that are making things negative. They're like you said, they're relentless implementers by nature. I mean, by nature they're relentless. It's to the point of annoying relentlessness. You know what I mean? But right. I mean, you've probably been around people who are successful that are relentlessly implementing things, and they are annoying. I would say I'm annoying to some people because of some of the attitude and the actions that I take, and not in a negative way, but just, annoying. Like same thing with the kids, it's not a negative annoyance. It's just a relentless, annoyance and implementation of what they're trying to accomplish, they're trying to get. And most of the time, they're pretty successful with it. I mean, they continue to relentlessly ask you about going to Disney. Are we going to Disney? Are we going to the zoo? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? Or can I have this? Or can I have that? Or, just spending time with them. There's all those types of things in the decisions that they want to make, and they decide to act and actually relentlessly implement it until they get it. And that's a great analogy to be able to connect that with the youthful mindset of relentless implementation.
Yeah, because you make a great point too, that they haven't been consumed by this environment, right? Because they're curious, they are full of energy, they're ambitious, as you mentioned on the topic of ambition, and they're relentless in pursuing, but they haven't been knocked down a couple of times yet, right? And the surroundings, they haven't been surrounded by people telling them no and no and no. So can you also share the importance of surrounding yourself with people on the same path, maybe a different purpose, but they are relentlessly pursuing their goals and holding themselves and others around them to higher standards? You and I touched a little bit on masterminds before we started this conversation. Can you share a little bit of the importance of that?
Sure. I think it's very important. We're kind of talking, about children and family and things like that. But even, at that stage of life, the people that they surround themselves with are their parents. And so as parents, we have to be careful about how we can negatively impact their attitudes, because you're right. They haven't lived long enough to be knocked down, but who it is that will knock them down the most? It's parents. And we have to be cognizant of that and understand that we really need to feed that, in a positive way. We have to guide them and we have to direct them. But guess what? We are to our children. We are their coaches. We are their mentors. And so your children have coaches and mentors. And of course, we as parents were children at one point, and our parents were the same thing to us. And, of course, as time goes, that kind of changes a little bit. But talking about right now, you should be surrounding yourself with other people who are relentlessly implementing. Don't just surround yourself with anybody. I can surround myself with a bunch of people, but if they're not lifting me up and getting me to be bigger and better and growing better, then I need to change my surroundings. I need to change my environment. Kind of in the green room, we were talking about, like you said, masterminds. And, you mentioned about being in a mastermind, last week or a couple weeks ago in Atlanta. And, I'm actually next week going to be going to a mastermind in Park City, Utah. And I will say that one of the most important things that I've done over the last 5 years in growing my business to where they are now and over 8 figures in revenue is having a mastermind that is consistent. It's not one of those types of things where I'm just going and trying to have a bunch of fun. Yes, you usually tie it in with some sort of event or something fun to kind of just make it interesting, but we're spending 12 hours, 15 hours a day for 2 or 3 days. And it doesn't feel, it's not negative. It's always just positive stuff that when we talk about negatives, but I'm just saying that I don't feel like when I spend 12 or 15 hours working on my business instead of just working in my business, I don't feel like it's work. And I found a friend that does some things that are very similar to me. And for the last 5 years, we get together 3 or 4 times a year and just go work on our business for 2 or 3 days. And it has really helped to transform my mindset and growth because he's always working on things that I want to do. And then I'm always working on things that he wants to do. And so we kind of feed off of each other at the same time. And we're constantly growing and building each other up. And it's just really, an important aspect of making sure that you choose your friends, but also choose them wisely. Make sure that you're not just finding somebody else that is negative or that can't lift you up. You want to be able to find somebody that is better than you that you can continue to grow with and kind of build each other up, and find that person that is a relentless implementer, not somebody that just is kind of like coasting through life. You know what I mean?
Exactly. What are some of the things that listeners can look at too if they're building a team? Because that's one thing that you've done successfully is build a team of people with a like-minded mindset to drive your businesses and grow your businesses. What are some of the things that you can share in your experience of building these teams of A players?
Sure. Well, I would say that we were not able to grow as fast as we would not have been able to grow as fast as we did if we didn't put the right people in place. And I'm the type of person that knows that I am good at a lot of different things and in multiple different areas, and I can learn and put my mind in anything that I put myself into. Like I can do a lot of different things, but I had to step back and go, what is it that I do best, and are there other people that I can put into a position that can help improve what I'm able to be good at the most? Even though I can do it all, I can't do it all efficiently, and I can't do it all without being able to, and at the same time being able to grow. And so I had to change my mindset in that regard too, and start to delegate things. I was recently watching an episode of The Prophet, and Marcus Lemonis was talking to this one entrepreneur, and they were going through like a list of duties of that person's and the list of duties in that business that needed to be done. Who's the accountant? And it was the business owner. Who was the janitor? It was the business owner. Who's the person who's over sales? It was the business owner. It was all these. They were wearing so many different hats. And yes, I do believe that as you get started, you should start that way. Like I don't see anything wrong with that. Like if we're starting that way, but you have to learn that as you continue to grow and you start to get bigger, you must hire people and delegate those tasks, or you won't be able to get out of that. And you have some. My favorite thing to think about in this kind of space is that you cannot change your current state with the same level of thinking that got you to your current state. You have to be able to change what your mindset is and what your level of thinking is to get to the next level of thinking. And otherwise, you're just going to stay in that same static mode.
You're listening to Dan Handford on the Cashflow Ninja podcast. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Life settlement investments have allowed financial and banking institutions to not only buy their equity contractually, but also diversify their capital from any economic, market, and geopolitical risk. It's been part of the billion-dollar blueprint followed by institutional investors. And if you're an accredited investor, you can also now participate in this vehicle with enormous growth potential. You can watch an informational webinar presented by one of the premier organizations providing life settlement investments, Penumbra Solutions, at cashflowninja.com/life settlements. Blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies will not only disrupt money, but every industry on the planet. These new innovations and technologies will affect every area of your life in the future. The cryptocurrency course teaches you everything that you need to know about getting started and profiting with cryptocurrencies and includes expert training from the top crypto experts in the world. You'll learn how to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrencies, how to safely store your crypto, how to become a sound investor, even if you're just a beginner, and how to apply blockchain technology to your business. You can watch a free crypto masterclass and grab the crypto course at cashflowninja.com/crypto course. You're listening to Dan Handford on the Cashflow Ninja podcast, and I'm back to our interview. So true. And one of my mentors told me at one stage, he said, just remember, MC, your best thinking got you where you are today. So it just ties into what you're just saying. And if you want to get to the next level or grow in any area of your life, you have to grow as a person and also grow your mindset. Now, you've also worked virtually with virtual teams, which is this is the way that business is being conducted these days. What are some of the things that you can share that you've done successfully in growing and working with virtual teams and having people not in-house, quote unquote, under one roof?
Sure. I mean, you can definitely, there's a lot of cost savings and cost benefits of being able to have a virtual team, not having to buy computers and office space and various things like that. But I think the biggest thing with outsourcing and having a virtual team that's not right there with you is the fact that you can now scale at a different level. Right now, I have a podcast and we're a daily podcast and we're doing 2 episodes a day, a long form and a short form. And that's where I spend a lot of my energies as far as virtual assistants. Is I have a team of like 6-7 virtual assistants that work on that business, and they're working on editing the podcast and creating the content and writing business articles, writing entrepreneur articles, and and creating our weekly email entrepreneur newsletter that we send down. All those different things. I can't do all of that. I mean, I can. If I really want to put myself in that space, I could do all those things, but I am better doing other things and thinking in different areas. And now I can actually do more things because I have a good team around me. And it does take time to find those right people, and you still have to train them. But the nicest thing about it is that, again, they bring their own resources with them, and you save a lot of money that way. But it also allows you to be able to grow because you don't have to worry about them being right there next to you. They can be pretty much anywhere in the world now.
Let's change gears here for a second, Dan, and let's look on the investor side. Now, you got into real estate and you're participating in real estate syndications, and you have other investments too into local startups and local accelerator and incubator programs. When you are analyzing investments or opportunities, what's the philosophy that you approach it with, and is there a checklist that you draw on when making these decisions?
Sure. So I would say that the biggest thing is being able to understand that, if you look at some of the most famous quotes from billionaires, a very famous quote from Warren Buffett is never lose money, right?
Right.
And so when you spend money, you have to make sure that money is spent wisely, and that money because you have to be willing to spend money, but you also have to be willing to spend money wisely and pivot and change if things aren't being done, or if things aren't being done to the point of being able to grow and to be able to expand. I have my 5 medical practices, and like I said earlier, they're a passive investment for me right now. It took me a while to build those up, several years, and I was earlier this year able to not exit. I'm still the president. I still look at the financial reports every week, but I put things in place and a good team in place so I don't have to be there in those businesses. And so I even just this morning, I had our corporate team that I do once a month with my team, where we all get together, and I usually have 3, 4, 5, have 5 people that get together with me, and we talk about various things in the practice and how we can grow things and change things and make things better, and also talk about some of the issues that are happening. But I'm able to also look at it from the financial side of things every single week. Okay, we spend this kind of money, we're getting this kind of return on our marketing and advertising. Maybe we also track those things very closely in regards to how much money we spend in each different piece, and where we actually where we actually are getting the most bang for our buck, and we can pivot and change those things on a quarterly basis as well. So we always are looking at where can we optimize, reduce expenses, and increase our income, but also where can we spend more money so we can actually make more money.
Right, exactly. Share a little bit about Handford Capital and what some of the real estate deals that you're looking in. What markets are you guys looking in, and
Sure.
and what are some of the exciting opportunities that you see out there?
Sure. So, Handford Capital is a business that we created really out of a selfish thing, because I've written too many six-figure checks to the government, and I was tired of doing that, and I was trying to find some ways to be able to put money back into the economy and back into the community, but also being able to offset some of my taxes. And so my biggest advantage there is that we buy large apartment complexes. Usually the minimum is about 150 units, upwards to about 300 units. And we purchase these assets by pooling outside investor funds as well as my own investment funds. So I always tell people I'm an investor first in my Handford Capital business. And so when I go and look for assets to purchase, I'm looking at it from my own perspective, saying, would I put my money in this business? Because ultimately that's what I'm doing. I'm putting my own money, six figures or more, in each one of these assets, because I'm wanting to, cash flow. So we cash flow on all these assets. We're looking for cash flowing assets. We're looking for value add assets, meaning that there's some sort of deferred maintenance or ability to push rents or something like that to be able to increase the income of that property. Because a lot of these assets, not a lot of them, all of these assets, the value is based on the amount of net operating income. So if we can reduce our expenses and increase our income, it increases that net operating income, which exponentially increases the value of the property based on what are called market cap rates. And so I know a lot of that might be a little bit new or whatever for some people, but we basically, on our Handford Capital website, we have some educational stuff there, and there's also a place there if you're interested in doing something with us there. You can look us up, and be glad to jump on a call with you to see if maybe something like this might be a good opportunity for you. But the main reason why I like this type of an asset is because of the tax strategies with it, but also being able to cash flow. So you can cash flow off these properties and then also show a loss at the end of the year because of the depreciation, the large depreciation due to cost segregation on these assets. And so the markets that we're looking for right now, there's 5 primary markets that we're looking for these properties. Number 1 is Orlando, Florida. We're going to Charlotte, North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Jacksonville, and Atlanta. So those are the 5 primary markets that we are actively searching for these assets. And right now, this year we've closed on 3 properties. We have a little over 800 units and $67.4 million in our portfolio. And so we're constantly adding properties and growing and looking for people to be investment partners with us if they wanted to be a part of our Handford Capital. And so that's the biggest thing is just trying to help high net worth individuals be able to cash flow off of properties, but also show losses to offset their passive income.
Yeah, that's we talk on this show a lot about efficiently positioning assets and savings to then deploy into vehicles that provide efficient income. So that's right up our alley there with as far as the efficient income strategies that you just shared. Now, Dan, one habit I've observed from very wealthy and successful people is that they're lifelong learners. They're always learning more, studying more, adding new skill sets, improving upon existing skill sets. What are you currently studying, and what skill sets are you currently learning?
Sure. So I am currently going to my person that I'm following right now. I'm kind of diving deep because I like to be able to dive deep in one person for a while and really learn the ins and outs of that person. And love him or hate him, Grant Cardone is the person in the last probably 2 years that has really transformed my thinking and my mindset. Usually the people when I ever bring up his name, they either love him or hate him, and I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I don't really love him, but I don't really hate him, but I really like a lot of the things about him and his mindset. And the biggest thing that has helped me is his mindsets that he talks about of a 10x mindset in his book, The 10x Rule. And so I was actually gifted that book from somebody, and I digested it and just fell in love with his entire mindset. And I just, to me, being able to find one person and grow deep with them is more important than just superficially studying any one person or multiple people. I want to go deep and really get the inner workings, and then I can move on to the next person. So right now, my biggest thing that I'm focusing on is learning a lot about, Grant Cardone, his mindset and his sales cycle, but also being able to, dive into multiple. Like right now, I'm a seminar junkie. I go into seminars. Every type of success that I've had I can point to an event or a seminar or something that I went to that I either met somebody or I picked up an idea that I was able to run with. And so to me, I like to go to seminars. And so I'm going to some of his seminars that he has and events that he has, but I'm also going to some real estate events and things like that. And lately we've been invited to speak on some of these stages to talk about this relentless implementation mindset and some of the ways that you can implement that in your own business. And even if you're new into real estate or a new entrepreneur or new into whatever it is, if you can get yourself into that relentless implementation mindset, and we actually go and talk about that in front of other groups. And so those are the things that we're doing right now, and to kind of grow and to kind of learn for ourselves.
Well, I'll tell you what, you practice what you preach because of the amount of podcasts that you guys put out, the businesses that you're involved in, speaking, traveling, seminars. It is absolutely relentless. Now, a core message in our show is to leave our families, communities, and the world better than we found it by passing down a mindset, values, and principles to future generations, not just money. So if you cannot pass on any money to future generations, and we're only allowed to pass on 3 principles to them to build wealth and achieve happiness and success, what would they be?
Number 1 is making sure you have a mentor that can help you along the way in that process. And making sure, number 3, that you surround yourself that can continue to build you up and lift you up into where you want to go. And then number 3, again, just kind of reiterating that, getting into that relentless implementation mindset. If you can't get those 3 things, it's going to be very hard to continue to grow.
Now, Dan, how can my listeners learn more about you? How can they learn more about all of the projects that you're involved in, your podcast, your investment company, and stay informed of the new ventures that you will be involved in the future?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that you can do is go to our website for our Handford Capital. You can just go to handfordcapital.com, which is HANDFORD capital.com, and find some information about us there. Our podcast is on our website called toughdecisions.net. You can find links to the various platforms. I'm sure whatever you're listening to this podcast on, you'll be able to find our podcast as well. So you can find information about that on toughdecisions.net. And of course, on our toughdecisions.net page, we also have the ability for you to join our free weekly email list, which is full of technology for business, inspiring business quotes, podcast summaries, business books, all those kind of things. It's a weekly email we send out just to kind of keep you apprised of the newest things that are coming out and some of the new things as far as books and quotes and stuff like that, because a lot of people like that. And then we get all that information from our interviews and just kind of compile it in that weekly email. And if your listeners are interested in this relentless implementation mindset, you can feel free to go to our toughdecisions.net website, submit a contact request on there, and I'd be glad to send you a presentation that we actually put together on this. This is a PowerPoint presentation on this concept of relentless implementation, and I would love to share that with you.
Fantastic, Dan. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and connecting and sharing your journey and your knowledge and providing so much value for my listeners.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and look forward to having coming on in the future as things continue to change and progress over time.
Are you having a hard time finding great investment properties? Unfortunately, the best deals are rarely found locally. Successful investing begins with the right properties in the right markets. Norada Real Estate provides everything you need to invest in the best deals across the United States. Our simple, proven system will help you create real wealth and passive monthly cash flow. Learn how to find the best deals by downloading your free copy of The Ultimate Guide to Passive Real Estate Investing at noradarealestate.com. That's NORADA realestate.com.
Thank you for joining me again on the Cashflow Ninja. Thank you for all your support. You rock. If you like what you hear and appreciate what we're trying to build here at the Cashflow Ninja, please subscribe, rate, and review our show on iTunes and share our show with family, friends, and your network. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can sign up for our newsletter at cashflowninja.com or text Cashflow Ninja to 44222. I'm also posting daily videos on Facebook and YouTube and will live stream weekly starting May 2018. To make sure you don't miss any of the live streams, please like and subscribe to my Facebook and YouTube platforms. I'm also dropping content on Instagram daily. Be sure to follow us on Instagram to get in on the action. I want to thank you for spending your most precious resource with me today, your time. That's our show for today. Until next time, live a life of passion and purpose on your terms. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The information being presented and considered does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation, and it does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax and legal advisor or other qualified professionals, and you should not use the information in place of a customized consultation with a licensed professional regarding your specific personal financial objectives, situation, and needs. We believe the information provided is reliable, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, timeliness, or completeness.